So the process we use for naming beers is not really linear. So it depends kind of on what the beer is. Sometimes the beer comes first, sometimes the name comes first. We release a lot more volume of beer by distribution, but a lot higher number of beers in the tasting rooms. The beers that are in the tasting room are kind of like more fun and quirky. The names can be a little bit more esoteric and, you know, kind of just to make the brewers happy. In some ways, and then the ones that go out to distribution take a little bit more thought and time.
The method for naming our beers has always been pretty genuine. We always want to make sure it is really personal. We don't want to be fake. It's probably like the biggest pet peeve. I see a lot of other people is like, you have no connection to that whatsoever. But we're always just goofing off, kind of witty-ish sometimes. Sometimes it's like high-class humor, and sometimes it's low-class humor, but it's always there. But it's always like fun. We want people to realize, I mean, we make beer. Like, we're not curing cancer. Like, we're here for enjoyment, and that's what it's here for. So
that's kind of why we do what we do, is to help. One, it scratches the creative urge, and that's both in the beer side and the naming side and the graphic side. And then the other is we're just trying to help people enjoy their day. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's our end goal.
Yeah.
Right? Holiday Helper, for example, is our winter seasonal. It started off just in the tasting room and became seasonal that went out to grocery stores and everything. That name came from, originally we just made kind of a higher alcohol red IPA to kind of help you with your holidays, maybe family issues, whatever, right? So we always try and have an authentic story or have fun with all of our names.
Sometimes the name does actually drive the beer. So Jordan, our marketing director, thought of a name called Family Photosynthesis. And I was like, yeah, I'm all about this. It was a good concept. She had a label and everything like that. So then from there, we decided to make an IPA, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna use a bunch of hops. I wanna make sure that's very, like, hitting all like the hop levels and stuff like that. So it's really fun sometimes when it comes from that side, because for me, thinking of a beer is easy, but once there's that concept, Jordan brought it up, I was like, yeah, like, let me think of how I can make a beer that's supposed to, you know, be that beer, so you can like have this name and do this cool art that you wanted to do. So there's plenty of times that happens. Sometimes it's really hard to like name a lot of beers. So the more it's closer to home, we definitely get more obscure, that's for certain.
Yeah, and then some of them, like the first beer we ever made, Alter Ego, that beer, we took a lot of time to name it, and that was actually named, I guess, I guess me to some degree. I was a lawyer and became a brewer, or started the brewery. I don't really call myself a brewer because I don't make any beer. But left, you know, doing what I didn't like so much to do something I loved. And so the message really is for everybody to embrace their alter ego. So that's kind of like everybody should go do whatever they love. Life's too short. So some of our names are a little bit more, I don't know, say philosophical or whatever, but all of them are personal in some way. They all are authentic. They all relate to somebody here at the brewery or some experience at the brewery, I would say.
One of the things that I really love about Smartmouth and our beer is we're always treating each beer as its own, trying to make sure it's unique in its own different ways and not kind of repeating itself. So we're learning from our processes all the time, but like when we want to make a new beer, we want to make sure that we're making it something different than anything else that's on the menu. So, you know, each one is supposed to be finding its own like drinker, and that's kind of what we want to happen. So the beer making process you're going to start with is malted barley. It's grain, and what we do is we crush that up. We add it to our mash tun. At that point, we're making oatmeal, trying to hit it to a certain degree temperature. That process, we're turning long sugars into simple sugars. Then we transfer it to a lauter tun. From that point, we are taking the wort at that point, which is the sugar water, and we're bringing it back to the kettle. Once it's in the kettle, we're gonna boil it, typically 75 minutes here. That's when we add hops. So hops are gonna add our bitterness and also our flavor and aroma. All beers, almost all beers have hops in them. At that point, we cool it down, and then we add it to the fermenter. In the fermenter is when it gets the yeast itself. So that's where it's actually now beer. Yeast will eat the sugars, it produces ethanol and CO2. From there, it sits in there between 17 to 31 days, sometimes even longer. Depending on the beer, we may add some stuff to the fermenter. At that point, we transfer to our bright tank, and the bright tank is a finished product. Carb it up, and then we package it, either in cans or in kegs. So the flavors of a beer come from each of those different steps that we were just going through. So, you know, the grain bill is gonna change everything. So you're making a sandwich, you have light bread and you also have like rye bread. And if you use two different types, you're gonna make a different type, like kind of sandwich. From there too, you have the hops. Hops, some are providing bitterness, but then there's also like different flavors that can come from it. So you have resiny, you can have fruity, all that kind of stuff. And then further into the fermenter, you know, if we're adding fruits or if we're adding, you know, vanilla or anything like that, that's where we can get more flavors from. So like each time the beer is moved, you have a different ability to change the beer and kind of make it what you want it to be.
I like the sandwich analogy. I hadn't heard that one yet. That's a good one. It's been an interesting evolution within the brewery of what beers we do make.
When we're making up new beers, we're sometimes, you know, 2 or 3 months away. Sometimes it's, honestly, I come in and talk to Porter about a new concept I want to do, but we're, as I was saying earlier, we're pretty genuine, wanting to make sure, you know, we find a beer for each beer drinker. Constantly like finding new ways. We have an amazing team here and we're just thinking of new ways to make beers or different things we want to tweak and stuff like that, and kind of going with it that way.
Smartmouth got started, I was a lawyer, didn't love being a lawyer, loved making beer at home. I was a home brewer. Started working on a business plan, and through a mutual friend met Chris Nykirk, who's my principal partner, and he and I worked on the business plan together and then ended up bringing in 11 other owners of the brewery. And so it was just a group of like-minded people who wanted to create something. This is back before there was breweries everywhere. This was a pretty novel concept in 2011 when I was putting the business plan together on my kitchen table. That's really how it came together, and once that came together, then we found this building, found all our brewers and people, and Smartmouth means drink intelligently, but also like have fun, because beer is supposed to be fun, and it allows us to be quirky and clever and have fun.